Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us again. We are welcome to another of the Spark crowdfunding webinars, where we'll be showcasing two excellent companies here today. Both today are medtech companies. We have PumpInHeart, which is a spin-out from the RCSI, the Royal College of Surgeons here in Ireland. And of course, we have AVeta Medical, which is a Galway University spin-out. And I'll introduce you to them as we go through. Both are actually qualifying for the 50% EIS, meaning that an investment of €1,000 costs you a net €500. It's a really good tax incentive that the government has implemented here, and really one that when we look at these early stage medtech companies that are in their R&D process, it's a very good incentive where you get the 50%, which is brilliant. So effectively, this makes the pre-money valuation half of what other investors are coming into at that same time. So it's a massive de-risking of the investment for you as a private investor. Both of these companies have had excellent starts with their campaigns, which are both live on the platform at the moment. PumpInHeart is overfunding at 130%, having reached and surpassed its target of 500,000. It's open for another while yet, so please do make sure you don't miss that close, which will be happening in the coming days. AVeta only went live just a couple of days ago and has already reached 65% of its target, with 780 committed. So that's had an excellent start as well. So just a few words about Spark. We have over 12,500 investors now on the platform. We are authorised by the Central Bank of Ireland as of about 6 months ago, November of last year. And we have a very nice product called the EIS Private Portfolio, which is where you can actually become a member of that. And one of our one of our people within the business will contact you and talk you through that. And what that means is that if you invest a number of times with the EIS Private Portfolio, you actually get an incentive at the end of that year as well with your investments. The pipeline has never been stronger. We not only do we have these two excellent companies that are showcasing today, but we have a very strong pipeline with equally strong credentials that will be going live in the coming weeks. So today, each company will have 12 or 13 minutes to present, and then there'll be a question and answer session. So please do put your questions into the Q&A box which you'll see on the screen, and we will ask those questions to the companies as we go on. So the first up is PumpInHeart. Donald, if you'd like to turn on your camera. Thanks very much. Good to see you again. Donald Hickey is CEO of PumpInHeart. Donald has a Bachelor of Engineering from Trinity and a Master's in Industrial Product Design. Before PumpInHeart, Donald was co-founder and CEO of Obsidian Technologies and has been instrumental in the growth and success of a number of businesses over the years. He has an excellent commercial pedigree. More generally, PumpInHeart is a Royal College of Surgeons spin-out, as I mentioned, and Donald is leading a very impressive multi-PhD team that has developed a revolutionary left ventricular medtech device to overcome the issue of heart failure. It is solving a massive global scale medical need, and it has been backed by Enterprise Ireland in the form of a €500,000 commercialisation fund grant that has already been received into the business. It was PumpInHeart has been the winner of the Teramis AM 2022 Business Plan competition in Toronto, and as I mentioned, is a 50% EIS qualifying company, meaning that valuation of 3 million is reduced by 50% for private investors. They're preparing their patent application for submission shortly, and the company has no debt. Donald, you're very welcome. So if you'd like to turn on your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chris. Very grateful for the opportunity to present to Spark crowdfunding investors. So as Chris explained, my name is Donald Hickey. I'm CEO of PumpInHeart, and I am PumpInHeart, which is a Royal College of Surgeons spin-out, intent on developing a device to save millions of lives and to save billions of dollars for national healthcare systems worldwide. PumpInHeart's already attracted the attention of quite a few multinationals, acquisition types such as Boston Scientific and Johnson & Johnson's MedTech division. So advanced stage diastolic heart failure is the core problem we're trying to address, and that presents as breathlessness, even at rest. There are over 2 million patients in Europe, the US, Canada, and the UK that suffer from advanced stage diastolic heart failure, which is a growing and major public health problem. The core problem is high blood pressure. That's chronic high blood pressure, which is the result of age, obesity, diabetes, and other comorbidities. Patients face a very grim terminal prognosis. They will spend the remainder of their lives frequently hospitalized, in some cases for long periods, and many will die in hospital. There are no available treatments, neither drugs nor devices, reduce morbidity nor mortality amongst diastolic heart failure patients at an advanced stage. So what is PumpInHeart going to do? Well, PumpInHeart is developing a device to a tiny pump that's implanted in the left ventricle by an interventional cardiologist in a cath lab. This device is about the size of a AAA battery, in fact, smaller than a AAA battery, and it spins up during the resting phase of the cardiac cycle to draw blood from the left atrium, that is, above the left ventricle, down into the left ventricle to reduce these pressures. And the core problem here is elevated left atrial pressure, and that's what we're trying to address. And we're actually trying to address it by a known therapeutic benefit is a reduction in left atrial pressure by 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury. So we're trying to achieve here is a reduction in left atrial pressure by 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury. And we do this by pump speeding up during diastole, or the resting phase of the cardiac cycle, and then and in sympathy with the cardiac cycle. So the product comprises 3 different elements. First of all, there's the implant itself. That's a frictionless motor and pump attached and held in place by an anchoring mechanism. As you can see here, looks a bit like a balloon, but it's in fact what it's doing is it's expanding against the walls of the atrium to hold the pump steady. Then there's the actual delivery system itself that implants the device and the power line. And then finally, there's the actual power and control unit, which is located just below the skin, around the collarbone, similar to where a pacemaker device is implanted. The device has been extensively tested across bench tested and in animal tests across Europe and in different laboratories in the Netherlands and Paris. And here you can see the device being implanted in an animal, and the results we got from these tests are really quite outstanding. Remember the point I made earlier that what we're trying to achieve is 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury pressure reduction in the left atrium. What we're achieving with this device is 10 millimeters of mercury pressure reduction. That's 2 to 3 times the target pressure reduction known to deliver therapeutic benefits. These are fantastic results, and they're consistently achieved across all of the tests that we performed. So who's going to buy it? Why are they going to buy it? So where it's going to be sold? Well, if we take the markets we're going to target initially, that's the US and Canada, and then subsequently the EU and the UK. These markets have national healthcare systems. That's like the NHS in the UK, or in the US it would be Medicare. And these systems, they will treat patients over 65 for free. So in the case of diastolic heart failure patients, that's 99% diastolic heart failure patients are over 65. So they're all entitled to free medical care. So where will the actual procedures take place? Well, the procedures take place in cath labs. These are labs often attached to hospitals. They could be independent labs, and they're ubiquitous. The cath labs are everywhere. They're massively profitable centers for healthcare systems. Who's going to implant them? Well, there are interventional cardiologists. Again, there are plenty of interventional cardiologists, and these interventional cardiologists are very keen to get in their hands tools to treat, their patients. The heart failure clinicians at the moment are very frustrated not being able to treat their patients because there are no therapies available. But once a tool becomes available, and it represents, of course, reasonable value, and gets into the hands of an interventional cardiologist, it will be prescribed. So how many patients are we talking about? Well, we look at the total number of advanced stage diastolic heart failure patients, who need to be treated or they will die. That is over 2 million estimated for forecast for 2030, and of that group, there are about 29% patients that would be suitable candidates for implant of this kind of a device. Now, we know that because we spoke to a lot of heart failure clinicians, and we asked them the question, what percentage would be suitable candidates for implant? And ultimately and anecdotally, they said, well, they gave different, they gave different responses. Some were saying like 5-10%, others say 55%. Those in the US tends to be more bullish than those in the UK or the EU. But ultimately, we concluded that 29% of patients would be suitable candidates for implant. And anecdotally, that would be patients who are sick enough to need it, but not too sick not to do well on it. So we're talking about 640,000 patients in these territories that are suitable candidates for implant. So, and we concluded a price of $50,000. So how do we get to a price of $50,000? Well, if you look at comparable procedures with the way they kind of price things in the US, for at least the way Medicare price things in the US, in the UK, they tend to focus on what sort of value it's providing in terms of how many quality adjusted life year metrics. And then, of course, we just spoke to physicians themselves and asked them, well, what do you think is a reasonable price? And they said 50,000, and so that gives us a total addressable market in these territories of 32 billion, which is simply a massive market. So of course it's not surprising that given such a massive unmet medical need, that you would expect others to be trying to develop therapies to treat these patients. Well, so far there have been a number of different therapies developed that will help, maybe manage the patients, obviously diuretics for heart failure and so on, renal denervation, various other treatments that will effectively have the potential to prevent the onset of advanced diastolic heart failure. Weight loss jabs would be very important for example, those with obesity-related diastolic heart failure. But there are no treatments available once a patient reaches advanced stage heart failure and presents breathlessness at the hospital or at their doctors. And unfortunately, because the earlier stage of heart failure is asymptomatic, none of these therapies highlighted in orange here are really of any use, because not enough patients are diagnosed early enough in order to benefit from those. The only time people actually get diagnosed with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction or diastolic heart failure is when they present breathlessness in a hospital. And we have the only device that has the potential to treat those patients. Of course, there's a lot of people who are very eminent in this field who are looking at what we're doing, very excited, not least our own Professor Robert Byrne at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. We have a great team. Dr. Amr Hamid trained as a cardiothoracic surgeon before taking up a position of anatomy lecturer and medical device researcher at the RCSI, where where he invented the production device in 2018. Derek Colgan, Dr. Derek Colgan, is a biomedical engineer that was previously VP of R&D, Structural Heart, Boston Scientific, and has extensive experience of taking transcatheter cardiovascular devices from concept right through to the market. The Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Andrew Malone, a postdoc researcher that joined Amber very early on, developed a lot of the bench testing and prototypes, and has been, really super inventive medical physicist. My own background, well, I was previously, as Chris said earlier, I've been involved in business and business focused on the global markets and the development of technology solutions for many years. So I was most recently CEO of Obsidian Technologies, which delivered educational technologies to about 30 different countries, about 100 different enterprise-wide telco customers, and so I've been involved in a bunch of other companies too. So plenty of experience and business development experience in medtech as well. We have a very large group of commercial and clinical advisors. I'm not going to go into the details here, but suffice to say, many of these will be our initial customers, because they'll be they could be first in human trial sites in the US, so they're very, 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 very helpful, very supportive of what we're doing. What are we going to do with the money that you gave us? Well, we're going to spend 2 million in the next 6 months, getting to some key value inflection points. Specifically, we will have a whole number of animal tests completed by the end of the year. Then we'll raise another 3 million to cover the costs necessary to get to design freeze of a transapical version of the device. That's a sort of a minimum viable product version of the device, with which we will be able to conduct a first in human in 2025. Once we have first in human data, then we will be able to raise more funds in order to address the development of the chronic version of the device. That is to say, a device that would be implantable permanently in someone, or indefinitely in someone, and thereafter then we will start developing for early feasibility, for pivotal trials. Once we get first in human data, we will be expected to be absolutely on the radar of acquirers such as those I mentioned earlier: Boston Scientific, Johnson & Johnson MedTech, Medtronic, Terumo, etc., etc. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your attending here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to and introduce PumpInHeart's first business angel investor, Stefan Ryszyński, a German medical technology consultant that has worked in medtech for over 15 years, evaluating novel medical devices for approval by regulators, mainly for approval by European regulators, but also for approval by Australian TGA, Health Canada, and the USA FDA regulators. He has particular expertise and extensive experience with the review of cardiovascular devices intended to diagnose or to treat other types of heart failure. Thank you. And please take it away, Stefan.
Stefan there.
Yeah, I think Chris,
Stefan, are
if
you there?
make him a presenter there on Zoom.
I thought he was already there. So in the meantime, whilst we do that, he's I don't know why he's not actually come in as a there we go, here he is now. So Stefan, if you'd like to switch your camera on, Stefan, I think you can now. Maybe promote to panelist. Anyway, perhaps Fergal, can you perhaps ask a question
there's
whilst
a
we do that?
few questions going in here, Donald, and maybe some for the rest of the team. So maybe one for you, Dara. What is the gold standard treatment for this type of heart failure?
Well, actually, there's thanks, Fergal. There's no as such, certainly not from a device perspective. So, diastolic heart failure is typically managed to a certain extent with pharmacology, medication-based treatments, and a lot of hospitalization to try and help relieve the congestion that the patient has. But there is no actual end therapy or end treatment afforded to a patient with diastolic heart failure. I've just been at EuroPCR where we presented last week. It's the main cardiology conference in Europe, 10,000 cardiologists there. A lot of sessions on diastolic heart failure, and a lot of the panel pointing out that there was no medical device solution available, that it was a long time an unmet need, that pharmacology or meds is only effective to a certain extent because people won't take their medication. You know, you need to sometimes up to 15 or 16 pills a day. You get a drop off very quickly in people taking medication, particularly with age and late stage advanced heart failure. So an unmet need, a number of different solutions like shunting pressure from the left atrium across to the other side of the heart have had very poor results presented recently at those conferences as well. So it really highlighted the need for the new technology, a new device, and we think that this device disrupts it.
Yeah, generation 3, excellent. Have
Very
we
good.
Stefan?
Yeah, no, we don't have Stefan. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not operating, but we'll just continue with the questions if we can. So, can you describe the physiological effect on systemic perfusion by reducing the atrial pressure from by 3 to 5 milligrams? Will it increase the flow through the aorta, and if so, what blood flow could boost? Could this generate, and what impact will it have on the symptoms? Perhaps Amir is best placed to answer that.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. So I can take a shot on that. So essentially, what happens in a diastolic heart failure patient is that heart walls are stiff, and when they are stiff, they're ineffectively filling up with the blood. So which means that there's a low volume of the blood going to the peripheral organs. So what we are trying to do is to lower the intracardiac pressures, but effectively, making the circulation better so that the end organs would receive much better blood flow. And it is vitally important, especially when patient is doing some exercise, especially mild to moderate exercise, because these patients, because of the high intracardiac pressures, they cannot even do mild to moderate exercise. They feel congested and their pulmonary pressures are high. So that's what we are trying to achieve over here. So ultimately, with this device, we are hoping that the blood flow to the systemic circulation will be better.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much, Amir.
Excellent. I have a kind of a commercial question here as well. What's the end plan? Have you been talking to any potential acquirers? What do they really need to see from you guys before signing on the dotted line?
Okay, well, first of all, if I may begin to answer this, then I'm going to pass you on to Dara, because I'd like Dara to answer the having come from Boston Scientific. So we were very lucky to be part of MedTech Innovator, and one of our mentors in MedTech Innovator was actually someone from Johnson & Johnson MedTech acquisition called Abiomed, which is a heart pump developer, albeit for a different type of heart failure, or for a different type of indication for hospitalized inpatients. And we asked them the question, we asked our mentor the question, so what exactly do we have to do to get acquired? And so it's quite simple. What we have to do is we have to de-risk. So we have a risk register, and then we have iteratively reduced the risk until you get to the point that the medtech manufacturer is comfortable with the risk profile of the business, And because of the massive market opportunity, that will be lower for us than it would be for others. So and that's the plan. Dara, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this technology, it would fit very well in the portfolio for any of the companies in the cardiology class 3 devices. Most of them are working on some form of mechanical circulatory support devices. So ventricular assist device, which is pumps in the ventricle pumping out into the aorta. So solving low blood flow from systolic heart failure. So an add to their portfolio on the diastolic side would be very beneficial to the portfolio. And what companies would need to see is they would need to see reasonable, very promising efficacy data in humans, a roadmap of technology development for pivotal trial and for commercialization that shows that the device is viable from a technology perspective, from an operations and manufacturing perspective, and from a fit with their customer bases, which is intervention cardiologists. So I think the roadmap and the business plan we have in place really goes after each of those elements as well.
Excellent. And just to follow on from that as well, what would a likely acquisition price be for something past the first in human inflection points?
Well, I mean, if you have to really look at what Johnson & Johnson paid for Abiomed back a year or so ago. They paid about $16 billion for Abiomed. Now, that is, Abiomed had already IPO'd at that point, and so they certainly were forced to pay the maximum amount, and they certainly did. And then more recently, in this, and Abiomed are a heart pump manufacturer, but albeit for a different indication, like Dara said, for systolic heart failure, not diastolic heart failure, for treating hospitalized patients rather than for temporarily, rather than for ambulatory outpatients with the destination therapy such as we're developing. But 16 billion is one figure. Then another figure is you look at some of the the recent acquisitions by Johnson & Johnson. Perhaps the most outstanding one is Shockwave Medical. Shockwave Medical acquired for 13 billion, which included a lot of the personnel from Heartware Inc. A lot of the management team coming from Heartware Inc. And we're very lucky to have a lot of Heartware Inc. People on our advisory panel. So there's really a really massive opportunity for investors here.
Okay. Okay, we've just got time for one more question. There are a load of other questions that have come in, and we'll answer those offline. But the final question then, how do heart fail physicians respond to the concept of this cath lab implantable pump? Perhaps Amir, that might be the best one for you, I guess.
So very positive, because we have reached out to, I think, a number of interventional cardiologists who have been managing these patients for over a number of years. And I'm talking about 25 plus years of experience of managing these patients. And they're all excited to actually, get their hands onto this new technology whenever it is ready to go. Because again, it comes back to the point that there is no treatment available. There's no effective option available for advanced stage diastolic heart failure patients at the moment. So that, yeah.
If I just might add to that, Chris.
Please do, Dara, please do.
So my experience with interventional cardiologists is the biggest commercial market launches in the history of interventional medicine occur when you give interventional cardiologists a device to treat a disease that they haven't previously had. So when interventional cardiologists were given stents instead of having to go to surgery for triple bypass or quadruple bypass, it created one of the biggest transfers of wealth in the industry. Similarly, when structural heart moved valve surgery into TAVI, into transcatheter valve replacement, again, it created one of the biggest markets in medical device. So giving the interventional cardiologist a device, it always kind of leads to one of the biggest markets. And this is what we're looking to do, is put a device in the hands of interventional cardiologists who currently don't treat heart failure as part of their routine.
Very good. Okay, lovely. Thanks very much, everybody. So as everyone can see, massive market potential here. Yes, very early stage, but nevertheless, the multiple PhD team behind this really know what they're doing, and hopefully can take this from where it is at the moment through to the patent protection, and then on to first in humans, and then hopefully a sale after that. So anyway, Donald, Dara, Amir, thank you very much. Sorry we couldn't get Stefan on, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right. Now, next up, we have, of course, AVeta Medical, and I'd like to introduce Brian Ledwith. Brian, very welcome. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
Brian is an engineer with a degree in mechatronics and has a 15-year career in the medtech field in R&D, mechanical design and product design across blue chip companies in the medtech and biotech sector in Galway. He is CEO of AVeta, and AVeta has developed a technology to treat vinal atrophy, the degeneration of the cells in the vaginal wall, which is a progressive and chronic condition that affects over 80% of women over the age of 51. AVeta has already conducted very successful trials in women and has brilliant results from these that Brian will elaborate on during his presentation. So AVeta is a Galway-based medtech spun out of University of Galway, as I mentioned earlier on, and they were in the BioInnovate Fellowship earlier on in their time as well. Highly experienced multiple PhD team as well as PumpInHeart, of course, and has been awarded a £2.5 million non-dilutive grant from the European Innovation Council as well. Received up to 550,000 from Enterprise Ireland as an HPSU startup company, and has investments qualified for 50% EIS tax rebate, as we mentioned before as well, effectively reducing the valuation from 4 million to 2 million for private investors. Patent application has been filed. First in human trials have been conducted already, and now is preparing for the FDA approval. The market size is in excess of $2 billion, and is now raising on the Spark platform, and has already raised 740,000 already, 760, I think now, with the investment that was happened through our investors. So, Brian, if you'd like to start your presentation, please do so, and we'll then get some questions in the Q&A and ask those to you afterwards as well. So, away you go.
Thank you so much, Chris, and welcome everybody. Give me 1 second here.
That looks good.
Everybody. Great. So my name, as Chris has mentioned, is 1 second. This just jumped around on me a little bit. Okay. My name is Brian Ledwith, CEO and Director of AVeta Medical. We're, as we said, Galway-based company developing a highly disruptive and technology for the treatment of genital urinary syndromes of menopause. This was previously known as vaginal atrophy. Had been changed in recent years to GSM. This is a chronic progressive disease, the condition, should I say, and it affects 80% of women with menopause. With global advancements in healthcare, women are living longer. This means women spend 40% of their lives in postmenopausal state. By 2025, that number of women in postmenopause will increase to 1.1 billion women. So consider a condition so prevalent that 50% of postmenopausal women, 15% of perimenopausal women, and 70% of breast cancer survivors endure this condition in silence. Vaginal atrophy is seismic. The seismic challenge affecting millions, reducing quality of life for both women and their partners, and demanding an innovative solution. Vaginal atrophy, it strains relationships, it shatters self-esteem, and it gets in the way of women enjoying happiness and comfort they deserve at the time of life where they most deserve it. The sad reality is 82% of women are affected report a significant disruption in their life and confidence. 66% state that they have had intimacy effects with their partner, reducing the benefits of that. With 25% no longer seeing any future of intimacy with their partner. So as I said, it shatters relationships, shatters self-esteem. These women suffer in silence because this is a chronic, progressive condition. It isn't discussed and it isn't well served right now. Current offerings are either ineffective, expensive or inconvenient, or are not approved for the use of vaginal atrophy. These systems can sometimes result in very harsh side effects. These offerings do not meet the needs of women during their midlife, but all the responsibilities that midlife brings. AVeta Medical excels, as you can see, in all of these areas. So what is the underlying condition here? The underlying condition is the reduction of estrogen that occurs going through perimenopause into postmenopause. And that reduction of estrogen impacts and reduces the blood supply to this tissue in the vaginal area. This reduction of blood supply causes a reduction of moisture, thinning and inflammation of the tissue, causing distressive symptoms. These symptoms are symptoms such as dyspareunia, which is pain during intercourse or intimacy, dryness and irritation, and because of the change in the tissue, there's an increase of urinary tract infections and recurring urinary tract infections. AVeta solution reverses these changes and provides a much needed safe and effective therapy through a medical device, a long-term solution that has no side effects. It's a proprietary solution that is pharma-free, hormone-free, painless, and offers rapid sustained relief at an affordable cost. This treatment can be administered in only 5 minutes, once a month at this stage, and in the comfort, and can be, when it's released from a FDA perspective, can be administered in the comfort of their own homes. So I'm just going to bring you through the product. The product you'll see is there's a probe with a single-use intravaginal tip. On that intravaginal tip are orifices or holes, of which the pneumatic or vacuum pressure is administered through those holes. That pneumatic vacuum pressure sucks in the tissue into those therapeutic holes, given the therapeutic sites, over 100, 133 to be exact, therapeutic sites around the vaginal tissue. That therapeutic sites triggers the natural healing response of the tissue and of the body's immune system to focus on that area, which in turn increases the vascularization, which is so important for that area, which that increase in vascular structure and blood supply increases moisture, increases folds and tissue health, and those increases and those benefits then reduce and eliminate the symptoms of this terrible condition. The beauty here is that this is working. Why do I say that? Because we've just done our first human trial, completed in November last year. We have now analyzed the data, and the data is proving that 10 out of 12 women, we did a 12-patient trial, 10 out of 12 of those patients had significant changes, benefits of the treatment, 3 of which had all of their symptoms fully resolved. We had objective evidence from the private investigator running the trial that from examinations themselves were easy to do, and the patients didn't have any pain after the treatment on examination of the tissue. The tissue was more moisture, it had more folds and more healthier color, showing the vascularization had increased. And also in terms of when we did analysis, a lab analysis, the superficial cells, 9 out of 12 of the patient's tissue had benefited in progression in the tissue structure itself. So we're very positive from those outputs. And again, a discrete 5-minute treatment once a month. This is very beneficial for end users and clinicians thereof. In terms of the team, multidisciplinary team, highly effective in medical device development. As Chris mentioned, myself, I've 15 to 19 years in medical device through Quiddy, Boston Scientific, and TE connectivity. We have a quality manager, which is ensuring that all of our development is done under the scrutiny of a quality management system. Again, that's coming from Boston Scientific, and our Chief Scientific Officer, Conor Minogue, has significant experience with women's health products and developing through to production and commercialization. Our founder, Paula Newell, has brought this product from inception through the BioInnovate faculty and fellowship, and got to a stage where, as planned, handed over to myself to bring this into commercialization. In terms of the support structures we have, in terms of clinic commercialization, we have the esteemed Eileen Duffy, she comes with renowned experience of bringing Indigenous companies to be one of the largest companies, Indigenous companies in Ireland through Origin, and also has had a vast experience in developing other companies from a consultancy perspective, and also from her experience from Baxter as well, bringing that to multi-billion-dollar businesses. From a clinical side, we're in good hands with James Liu. He is the former chair and Department of Obstetrics in Case Western and Cleveland Clinic. James has vast experience in developing products for vaginal atrophy and GSM and OBGYN products. So we are in good hands, and he's been helping us to ensure that this meets the user needs of both clinicians and patients alike. Dr. Nancy Phillips as well also has vast experience in vulvovaginal health, in obstetrics and gynecology and Rutger Health, and she's currently with IMA. And Nancy will be helping us in terms of becoming the PI for our clinical trials, and we have already selected our PIs for our next phase of pilot trials and pivotal trials. So we're on track there. So what is the business case here, and what's the potential of this business? So currently, 37% of all women suffering from vaginal atrophy and GSM attend clinics to get that addressed. That becomes a TAM market of 9.25 million women of a $10 billion business for AVeta Medical. Of those women that move into the clinicians, 60% do not get relief, simply do not get relief from the first line treatments, which is moisturizers and lubricants. And that affords us a $6 billion addressable market, service addressable market. And then 40 to 50% of women that don't get relief from the first in line treatments will, under no circumstances, use the second line treatment, which is estrogen therapy or hormone therapy. This gives us an absolute unmet need of 2 million women in the US alone, and a $2 billion industry. This is all bolstered from a CAGR of a huge CAGR of 7.3%. This is a growing market. 6 million women come into this market every year, move into menopausal state phase of their life. So this is a end-on-end growing market, as you can see from that CAGR. So what's our route to market? Our route to market is a business to business, and then a business to customer. So our first route to market is clinicians, clinics, hospitals, and healthcare centers. That benefit us from an efficient marketing. There's 23,000 OBGYNs in the US alone. That gives us a concise market to focus on. We'll be bolstering that from an end user marketing campaigns in parallel. The benefit of going to clinicians first is that it gives us a significant factor. One clinician can see and treat up to 22 patients to 40 patients a month. So this gives us a very efficient revenue model in terms of growth. And you'll see that from the next slide, where we show some of the growth figures here. So in terms of, just to bring you through this slide quickly, we're seeing revenues from year 3 to 5 in terms of $140 million to $280 million. Gross margin in terms of 69%. So we have a very efficient BOM cost, a very nice, good sales price, which is nestled nicely in the market for affordability economics. AVeta, as you can, what you'll see here is, I'll show a conversion to AVeta is 47% on average 3 to 5 years, and an OPEX percentage revenue of 21%. So overall, very strong. And I will say this is conservative. We've been very careful to kind of be conservative of these numbers in terms of conversion rates. We have a very positive strategy to get to market. As Chris had mentioned, we've gone through our first in human trials, very, very positive results out of that. Our next phase now is to do a random control trial where we bring in a placebo effect. We would see that once we have the random control trial and the pilot trial completed by Q2 2025, we will see significant rise in share in valuation. Reason being is because it sets the scene for pivotal trial. Once we show a trend of benefit from placebo, we are basically on track then. As we grow the subject numbers for our pivotal trial, we basically build confidence of our power and confidence of our pivotal trial. We are working closely with the FDA at the moment, and there's very positive feedback from them of our product and device. So we would see that we are going to have we're on track with low mitigations to get to market release. Our first market is US. We will be following then with Europe as well to extend this to a global audience. So our current investor round is 1.8 million. That money will be used to complete the pilot trial that we're on track to start in the next months. That trial will be completed in Q2 2025. In parallel, what we're using right now is a minimum viable product, of which you might see behind me, a area version of what's behind me. What we'll be doing then is developing our commercial unit, which is a high margin, low BOM cost, high return OEM product in terms of a AVeta medical product, should I say, which will integrate with a consumable tip. So that consumable tip is about 60% of our revenue, and we will be developing that for our pivotal trials, which will be then released to market. As we say here as well, we have been delighted to be able to have been granted and awarded a 3 million non-dilutive funding from Enterprise EIC, and 550,000 grant from EI Commercialization Fund, and that has brought us to where we are now. So the funding is to bring us through this pilot trial. So I'd like to thank you so much for your time. Just to kind of show you in terms of possible exits that happened in recent times. This is a very attractive area of market in terms of women's health. It's on a new wave of viewport, and you'll see here Bayer with Candy of 425 million in 2020. These are big number exits, and our exit strategy is at the end of commercialization, at the end of FDA approval, we will be ripe for an exit strategy and acquisition. I'll just leave you with some high-level reasons why AVeta Medical is an ideal opportunity to invest in terms of market growth, in terms of the funding we've obtained right now, in terms of our IP has been published at this stage, and we're very confident with that broad IP. We're going to have a very broad level of coverage, and again, EIC qualifying of 50% rebate. So I'll bring this time. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to any questions you have.
Wonderful. Brian, thank you very much indeed. Excellent presentation, and those few points at the end, why invest, very important, very important. Massive amounts of EIC funding gone into the business already. 50% EIS, of course. Yeah, very well received first in human trials as well. So yeah, and well on the route to FDA approval as well. Okay. A good number of questions in. So, but again, if anybody wants to ask Brian a question, please add them into the Q&A box at the bottom. So, when you compared your product with others, did you see any which your product didn't have compared to others? And well, anyway, perhaps you can just elaborate on that if you can, please, Brian.
I will indeed. Currently, there is no device on the market that's approved for regulatory approval. So our competitor is laser treatment in terms of it's not approved, it's used off-label, it's hugely expensive. It's out-of-pocket payment of about $6,000 a year for a patient looking to use that type of treatment. The capital expenditure for a clinician to purchase that equipment is up in $120,000. So our price point is a very low cost, very safe treatment, and we don't believe that's a valid competitor. Once we get into the market, we will adopt that market very quickly.
So actually, I think I'm right in saying that the FDA have actually put a stops warning on laser treatment for this.
Exactly.
So it's actually, as you said, it's off-label. It really shouldn't be used, and the FDA are actually saying that you shouldn't. But following on from that, Brian, there's another question in actually you're asking about the cost of the machine. So a laser treatment is $100,000, $120,000 to actually have that. But perhaps you can say how much does the device cost? Does it need continuous use, or once rejuvenated, do you stop using it? How long will the machine last? Number of questions there.
Okay, number of questions there. So the price of the unit that we have at the moment, the RRP price of the unit itself is $550 for the end user. For the controller itself, that gives them the starter pack. Thereon after then, the consumable tips are $70 per tip, and they come in a pack of 3, and we'll be revising that to meet the market need. In terms of the overhead, yeah, from a clinician perspective, our finances to date have said that we will actually offer the clinician a unit for free just to motivate them to use the product. So we haven't got them that cost in. When we convert to, if at the right time we convert, we will be seeing the clinic unit at $1,500. So again, compared to laser treatment, we're significantly reduced. It means that rather than being a specialty clinic, our product can be rolled out in every clinic in the US. So very affordable for clinicians to be able to treat vaginoplasty. Currently, it's a pharma-treated problem. So this gives the power to the clinician and OBGYN to be able to treat in their office.
Very good. Sorry, Virgil, I'll let you come back in a second. But so there'll be two devices, one for the clinician and one for home use. And
That's
the
correct.
clinician's is going to be $1,500. The home use one is going to be $500 or thereabouts.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, thanks very much.
And I just remember your second point in terms of the duration or the effective time frame. So sorry, I just want to put some points in that. As we're building knowledge, we're going through our first in human. We're doing a 10-month follow-up, and we're doing a 12-month follow-up, and then going into the future trials, we'll be advancing and understanding more of the benefits, which is the outcomes for the patients. This is very important for us in terms of it's all well and good look at the objective evidence, but it depends how the patient is feeling at the outcome of this treatment. At this moment, we're seeing very, very positive results. So 3 of the patients right now have done their 10-month follow-up, and they have felt that they have got the benefit of 4 months benefit after the regime of treatment. So it is a chronic progressive disease, the condition. It will require top-ups and consistent year-on-year treatments, and that builds into the revenue model of the business.
Great.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian. Just in terms of the scale up and scalability for mass production, have you selected a manufacturer? What are the unit economics? Have you an idea of what the device is going to cost? And
we do indeed, yes. Yeah, all that's been quoted, and we have plans in place to, as we grow and scale, we can reduce unit cost through innovation and tooling and so on and so forth. So right now, the product is in mass production. It has been tooled, injection molded, ready for us to allow us to do all our trialing at an efficient cost point. That then, in terms of can scale. So in terms of the probe tip, we have the tooling plan and the design of tooling already completed. The tool is developed and running to bring us to rolling out our 5-year launch plan. What that entails is end-of-life tools, replenishing those tools, and building out those tools to supply the demand up to the 3 to 5 year rollout.
And where the manufacturing take place? Have you an idea?
Yeah, we've selected our contract manufacturer is a manufacturer that is multi-site. Those sites are in Europe, in terms of France, Germany, Spain. They've also got sites in Asia and sites in the US. So we are working with them to roll out the optimum scale plan with them, and they can, as we scale, they can move production to the most optimum site to meet demand.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. Can you please explain the go-to-market strategy that you have?
Indeed, yes. So as I mentioned in my presentation, our focus is on the clinician. They become the epicenter of our essentially sales engine. The benefit here is, as I said, there's a finite number of clinicians in the US and across the EU when we expand into that area. So the campaigns to excite and motivate them are in terms of when we speak to clinicians, they're absolutely wishing to understand the objective evidence in terms of validation through clinical trials, the data that supports the benefit for the patients. With that, as we move through pilot and pivotal trials, we will be supporting that and bolstering that for the clinicians, while rolling out to all of the conventions that those clinicians attend in terms of updates of our product. In parallel, then, that clinician rollout, as I said, it's very efficient because it's a 1 to 20, 1 to 40 ratio of conversion. Then as we grow revenue, we will be extending then our marketing campaign ahead of the home use market to prescription home use market to get a push-pull scenario happening. So not only from clinicians being motivated to prescribe, we also have the patient coming to the clinician looking for the product and advising that that's the product they want to use because of the safety regime of the product.
Excellent. And on that point, are you looking at all down the line for women in Ireland or Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland for clinical trials? Is that in the pipeline at some stage?
Yeah, I mean, our first clinical trials now, in terms of after our first in human, our next clinical trial is going to be in a basis of between Europe and US, and outside Europe and US. Our pivotal trials will be in the US, in that jurisdiction, to aid us getting through the FDA approvals. But yes, I mean, we will be open to enrolling patients and subjects across whoever would be interested in attending those trials.
I think time for one more question. What's the exit strategy, please, Brian? Can you elaborate on how you see this panning out?
We have been having conversations and interactions with possible partners. They have told us what they need. They need the evidence. They need and each one has a slightly different requirement. But a minimum we're seeing is to get through the pivotal trials. Others then want us to be first year in commercialization. We have the plans to scale, but we're building the collateral to roll into a potential exit as early as end of our pilot trials or our pivotal trials.
Great stuff. Okay. Right. Thank you very much indeed, Brian. So
thank you, Chris.
From both PumpInHeart and from AVeta now, and both of them very much worthy of consideration for an investment. PumpInHeart's valuation 3 million with a 50% discount through your EWIS. AVeta valuation of 4 million with a 50% discount. So really de-risking your investment because of the tax benefit from that. Yes, it's a big incentive to invest, to get rid of some of that tax burden. As always, we're very happy to facilitate a one-to-one conversation with either Brian or the PumpInHeart team in order for you to actually ask some questions perhaps that you want answered that you haven't had a chance to be answered today. We're very happy to organize those. Yes, the both campaigns are live on the site at the moment. Please have a look at that. You'll see the video on there. You'll see the key investment summary sheet that we prepare for each of the campaigns, and all of the information will be there. So please do so. So Brian, thank you very much for your time. Fergal, thank you very much for yours. And if Donald's still there, thank you very much for your time as well, and the rest of your team. And we will see you all again soon. Thanks very much.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.